Officer Sora arrived exactly 1 hour later. Her ship was different from the warships. It was smaller, sleeker, painted in white and blue instead of military gray. It carried no visible weapons. This was a diplomatic vessel, built for talking instead of fighting. But everyone on the Coalition bridge knew the truth now. If this small peaceful ship was attacked, the 4 human warships waiting nearby would respond. And that response would be final. Admiral Kivos and Commander Hyun waited in the docking bay as Sora's shuttle touched down. When the door opened, a young human woman stepped out. She wore a formal uniform, dark blue with gold trim. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple style. Her face was calm and professional. "Admiral Kivos," she said, bowing slightly in the human custom. "I am Officer Sora, representing Earth's diplomatic corps. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "We had little choice," Kivos replied. His voice was tired. "True," Sora admitted, "but you could have chosen to keep fighting. You chose to stop. That shows wisdom." They walked through the corridors to a conference room. Other Coalition commanders were already there, waiting. The Corthan commander sat at the far end of the table. He would not look at Sora when she entered. His pride was wounded too deeply. Everyone sat down. An awkward silence filled the room. No one seemed to know how to start this conversation. Sora broke the silence. "I understand you have questions. Many questions. I am here to answer what I can and to discuss what happens next." "What happens next?" Admiral Kivos repeated. "You have destroyed a quarter of our fleet. You have shown us that we are no match for human military power. What more is there to discuss?" "The future," Sora said simply. "The galaxy does not stop because of one battle. The Ravagers are still attacking frontier colonies. Other threats exist in deep space: pirates, criminals, rogue factions. These problems do not go away just because Earth has revealed its capabilities." "So you want us to keep fighting?" the Corthan commander asked. "To pretend this never happened?" "No. We want you to understand the truth and then decide what to do with that knowledge." "The truth?" Kivos asked. "I think we have seen the truth. We are weak. You are strong. That is the truth." Sora shook her head. "That is part of the truth, but not all of it. Admiral, why do you think Earth built such powerful weapons?" Commander Hyun told us. "You fought yourselves for 400 years, yes. But why did we fight for so long? Why did we not destroy ourselves completely?" No one answered. "We fought because we had no choice," Sora explained. "On Earth there was nowhere to run. One planet, limited resources. Too many people with different ideas about how to live. We could not escape each other, so we had to either learn to coexist or die trying." She pulled up a holographic display. It showed images of Earth's history: cities burning, mushroom clouds rising, ruins of civilizations, but also images of rebuilding, people working together, new cities rising from the ashes. "We learned something important through all that pain," Sora continued. "We learned that survival requires 2 things. First, the strength to protect yourself. Second, the wisdom to know when not to use that strength." "You call what happened today wisdom?" the Corthan commander asked angrily. "You slaughtered our people." "You fired first," Sora replied calmly. "You were warned. You were given a chance to stand down. You chose to attack. Captain Nari responded with the minimum force necessary to stop you." "Minimum force? Nearly 100 ships destroyed." "Yes, minimum force. If Captain Nari had wanted to destroy your entire fleet, it would have taken him less than a minute. Every ship here would be gone. Instead, he disabled your combat capability and then stopped. He showed restraint." The room fell silent again. The Coalition commanders looked at each other. They were beginning to understand the full scope of what had happened. "So what do you want from us?" Admiral Kivos asked. "We want to offer you a choice," Sora said. "Earth is willing to share our defensive technology with the Coalition. Not our weapons, but our defensive systems. Better sensors, stronger hulls, more efficient engines. We can help you become stronger." "In exchange for what?" "In exchange for accepting that when it comes to military matters, Earth leads. When threats appear that require force, human ships respond first. Coalition vessels provide support, but we make the strategic decisions." "You want us to become subordinate to you," the Corthan commander said bitterly. "We want to keep you alive," Sora corrected. "Admiral, what do you know about the Ravagers?" Kivos looked confused by the question. "They are pirates, raiders. They attack colonies and steal resources. They have been a problem for 50 years, but a manageable one. That is what you think. But it is wrong. Sora changed the holographic display. It now showed images of Ravager ships, massive vessels, built from scavenged parts and stolen technology. The Ravagers are not pirates. They are what is left of a civilization that destroyed itself, like humans almost did, but they failed to stop in time. New images appeared. Planets with dead atmospheres, cities reduced to rubble, populations that had numbered in the billions reduced to millions of violent survivors. They had a civil war that lasted 200 years, Sora explained. They used weapons that made their own planets uninhabitable. Now they travel through space, taking what they need from others. They are desperate, dangerous, and they are getting stronger. We know all this, Kivos said. Do you know they have been watching the Coalition, studying you, learning your tactics and weaknesses? Do you know they are building a fleet right now that is 5 times larger than what you face today? The Coalition commanders sat up straighter. That is not possible, Kivos said. Our intelligence reports, your intelligence is wrong. We have been tracking the Ravagers with our own systems, deep space monitoring stations, stealth ships. Technologies you do not have. We know exactly what they are planning. Sora pulled up another display. This one showed a massive Ravager fleet assembling in deep space. Hundreds of ships, maybe thousands. They are coming, Admiral. In 6 months, maybe 8, they will attack Coalition space. Not just frontier colonies. Core worlds. They mean to take everything you have built and use it for themselves. Then we must prepare, the Corthan commander said. How? With the fleet you have now, you would lose. Badly. The Ravagers learned from watching you fight small battles. They know your weapons, your tactics, your weaknesses. They have built counters for everything you have. Then what can we do? Accept our help. Let Earth take the lead in fighting this threat. We have already been preparing. Our ships are designed to fight wars of extinction. The kind of war the Ravagers bring, we can stop them, but we need the Coalition's cooperation. Admiral Kivos looked at the display showing the Ravager fleet. His 4 eyes studied the numbers, the ship types, the formations. He had been a military commander for 40 years. He understood what he was seeing. If what you say is true, then we have no choice. You always have a choice, Admiral. You can refuse our help. You can try to fight the Ravagers alone. But you will lose and millions will die. And if we accept, we become subordinate to Earth. In military matters, yes. But in everything else, no. The Coalition still governs its own space, makes its own laws. Earth does not want to rule you. We want to protect you. There is a difference. Kivos sat back in his chair. He looked tired and old. 3 hours ago, I commanded the largest military fleet in this region of space. I was confident, proud. Now I learn that everything I believed was wrong. We are not strong. We are weak, and our only hope for survival is to accept help from a species we barely know. Yes, Sora said gently. That is exactly right. How do we know we can trust you? How do we know this is not a trick to gain control over us? You do not know, Sora admitted. Trust must be earned over time. But consider this. If Earth wanted to conquer the Coalition, we could have done it already. We have had 50 years to prepare. We know where your important worlds are. We know your defensive capabilities. We could have attacked at any time and won easily. Then why did you not? Because we do not want an empire. We had empires on Earth. We had nations that conquered and enslaved others. We learned that empires always fall. Always. Building something through force never lasts. Building something through cooperation, through mutual benefit that can last forever. Admiral Kivos looked around the table at the other commanders. He saw the same exhausted acceptance on their faces that he felt. I cannot make this decision alone, he said. The Galactic Council must vote. All member species must agree. We understand. Take your time. Think carefully. Discuss with your leaders. But do not take too long. The Ravagers are coming and they will not wait for you to make up your mind. Sora stood up. The meeting was over. She bowed slightly to the Coalition commanders. I will leave you now. My ship will remain nearby in case you have more questions. Commander Hyun will stay here to act as liaison. She turned to leave, but Admiral Kivos called out, Officer Sora? One more question. Yes, Admiral? The Iron Requiem. Captain Nari. He is a good commander? One of our best. How many battles has he fought? Sora paused. 17 major engagements. 42 minor ones. He has never lost a ship under his command. He has never failed a mission. Against what enemies? Mostly against pirates and raiders in remote systems. but also against some Earth Defense Force ships in training exercises. The Coalition fleet hung motionless in space. Around them, the wreckage of 97 ships drifted in the darkness. Escape pods floated between the debris, their distress beacons flashing. More than 20,000 crew members were dead. Another 15,000 were injured or stranded in space waiting for rescue. And the Iron Requiem had not taken a single point of damage. Admiral Kivos sat in his command chair. He had aged 10 years in the past hour. His 4 eyes looked at the displays, but he did not seem to see anything. The other commanders stood silently at their stations. No one spoke. No one moved. Hyun walked back to his station. He did not sit down. He just stood there watching, waiting. "Commander Hyun," Kivos said finally. His voice sounded hollow. "Yes, Admiral? You tried to warn us." "I did, sir. We should have listened." "Yes, sir." Kivos turned to look at him. "Why did Earth build such weapons? What enemy did you face that required this level of force?" Hyun took a deep breath. This was the question he had hoped to avoid. But there was no avoiding it now. "We built these weapons to fight ourselves, Admiral. I do not understand. Earth has not always been united. Before we discovered faster-than-light travel, we were divided. Hundreds of nations, different governments, different beliefs, and we fought each other. We fought for 400 years with these weapons and worse." The bridge was completely silent now. Every being there listened to Hyun's words. "Every weapon you saw today was designed to kill other humans," Hyun continued. "The railguns were made because human shields could stop energy weapons. The adaptive missiles were made because human computer systems could jam regular missiles. The shroud was made because human energy weapons became too powerful to defend against normally. 400 years? The Korthan commander spoke for the first time since the battle ended. He looked broken. "You fought yourselves for 400 years with weapons like these?" "Yes, sometimes the wars were small. Sometimes they were large. But they never fully stopped. We killed each other in millions. We destroyed our own cities. We poisoned our own planet. We learned every possible way to kill efficiently. How did you survive?" Kivos asked, barely. "Many times we came close to destroying ourselves completely. But slowly, painfully, we learned. We learned that working together was better than fighting. We learned that peace was harder than war, but worth the effort. 50 years ago, Earth finally unified. We became one people instead of many nations. And then you came to space," Kivos said, "and found us. Yes, and we watched you. We studied your civilizations, your wars, your conflicts, and we realized something important." "What?" "You were not as dangerous as us. Your wars were small compared to what we had survived. Your weapons were limited. Your tactics were predictable. You fought with honor and rules. We had learned to fight with only one rule: win at any cost." A new voice came through the communication system. It was a young female officer from one of the surviving Coalition ships. "Eternal Dawn, this is Lieutenant Yuna of the Human Communications Team. I have been monitoring Coalition transmissions during the engagement. May I share them with Admiral Kivos?" Hyun looked at Kivos. The Admiral nodded weakly. "Broadcasting now," Yuna said. Audio clips began to play. Messages that had been sent between Coalition ships during the battle. The bridge speakers filled with the sounds of panic and terror. "They are inside our shields." "How are they inside our shields?" "The missiles are learning. They are adapting to every defense we use. Nothing works. Our weapons just disappear when they get near that ship. We need to retreat. We need to run. They are not trying to disable us. They are trying to kill us. These weapons are designed to kill." The recording stopped. The bridge was quiet again. "You heard fear in those voices," Hyun said. "Real fear. That is because your people understood something in that moment. They understood that every weapon on that human ship was built by people who expected to fight enemies just as smart and capable as themselves. We designed these weapons expecting our targets to dodge, to adapt, to learn, to survive, so we made sure they could not." Kivos stared at the Iron Requiem on the display. "What kind of people does that to themselves?" "Determined people," Hyun replied. "People who refused to give up even when facing their own destruction. People who learned from their mistakes and made better weapons each time. Better defenses, better tactics. For 400 years, we refined the art of war against the most dangerous enemy we could imagine. Ourselves. And now you are in space," the Korthan commander said quietly. "Among us. Yes, what happens now?" Will you conquer us? Enslave us? Hyun shook his head. No. We did not come to space looking for empire. We came looking for friends, for allies, for people we could learn from and share with. But we also came prepared. We knew there might be threats out here. Civilizations that would see us as weak because we are new. Species that would try to take advantage of us. So you kept your military strength hidden, Kivos said. Yes. For 50 years we watched and waited. We sent small ships. We acted peaceful. We shared our culture and our knowledge. But we never showed you our weapons. We wanted to see if the galaxy was safe. If we could trust the species we met. And what did you decide? We decided most of you were good people. We decided the coalition was something we wanted to be part of. But we also decided we needed to keep our military separate. Secret, just in case. Admiral Kivos looked at his displays again. He pulled up a tactical analysis of the battle. The numbers were terrible. In less than 30 minutes, the Iron Requiem had destroyed nearly a quarter of the coalition fleet. Casualty rates were catastrophic, and the human ship had used only its defensive weapons. Commander Hyun, Kivos said slowly. Captain Nari said he would show us his primary weapons. What did he mean? Hyun hesitated. Admiral, I do not think. Tell me. We need to understand what we are dealing with. Hyun sighed. The weapons you saw were railguns and missiles. These are kinetic weapons and smart weapons. They work in atmosphere and in space. They are reliable and hard to defend against. And the primary weapons? Thermal weapons. Focused plasma beams that burn at temperatures found in the cores of stars. They do not just destroy ships. They erase them, turn them into vapor. Nothing survives them. No shield, no armor. No hull material we know of. Mother of the Void, Kivos whispered. Those weapons cannot be used near planets or stations. They are too powerful. The radiation alone would kill everyone nearby. So we only use them in deep space against targets we want completely destroyed. How many shots would it take to destroy this fleet? The Korthan commander asked. With thermal weapons? 1 shot per ship. Maybe 40 seconds to kill all 300 of your remaining vessels. The Korthan commander sat down heavily. His thick legs could not support him anymore. There is something else, Yuna's voice said over the communication system. 3 more human ships just arrived at the edge of the combat zone. On the display, Hyun saw them. 3 more vessels, each one similar in size to the Iron Requiem. They held position at a safe distance, their weapons pointed at the coalition fleet. That is the second wave, Hyun explained. Standard human military doctrine. Never send 1 ship alone if you can avoid it. The Iron Requiem was just the first response. These 3 are the support fleet. How many ships does Earth have? Kivos asked. I cannot tell you exact numbers, Admiral. That information is classified. But I can tell you that the ships you see here are not our largest. They are not our most powerful. They are peacekeeping vessels, built for responding to emergencies and showing force when needed. Then what are your largest ships like? You do not want to know, Admiral. Trust me on this. Captain Nari's voice came through the speakers again. Coalition fleet, this is the Iron Requiem. We are receiving new orders from Earth Command. A diplomatic vessel is on its way. Officer Sora will be arriving within the hour to discuss the current situation. Until then, you will hold position. Do not attempt to leave. Do not attempt to engage us. Do not attempt to contact the Ravagers. Is this understood? Admiral Kivos activated his communication system. This is Admiral Kivos, we understand. We will comply. Good. Iron Requiem out. The communication ended. Kivos looked around his bridge at the frightened, shocked faces of his crew. Then he looked at Hyun. What happens now, Commander? Now you wait, Hyun said. And you think carefully about what you have learned today. Because this changes everything. The space between the Coalition fleet and the Iron Requiem lit up like a small sun. Energy beams in every color crossed the darkness. Missiles streaked forward, their engines burning bright. Plasma bolts, laser cannons, particle beams, all the weapons of 400 warships focused on one target. For 3 seconds, the human ship disappeared behind a wall of destructive force, energy levels that could turn a planet's surface to glass hammered against the dark hull. Then the weapons stopped. The coalition ships needed to let their systems cool down and recharge. The bright light faded, smoke and burning gases cleared. The Iron Requiem hung in space, completely unchanged. Not a scratch on its hull, not a dent, not a mark. It sat there in the silence, waiting. Impossible, Admiral Kivos whispered. Sir, the sensor officer said, her voice shaking. I am reading no damage. None at all. It is as if we never fired. Scan their shields, Kivos ordered. Find the frequency. Find the weakness, and sir, they said they do not have shields. I believe them. I am not reading any shield energy at all. Then how? The Korthan commander demanded. How did they survive that? Captain Nari's voice came through the speakers again. He did not sound angry. He did not sound upset. He sounded bored. Was that your best shot? No one on the coalition bridge answered. I see, Nari continued. Then it is our turn. Minho, you may fire when ready, a new voice responded. Yes, sir. All batteries. Target the Korthan vessels first. They started this. Let us finish it. The Iron Requiem's weapon ports, those hundreds of glowing eyes in the darkness, began to shine brighter. Not with the bright colors of energy weapons. These glowed a dull red, like metal heated in a forge. Railguns, Hyun said quietly from his spot by the door. They are using railguns. What are railguns? Admiral Kivos asked. Before Hyun could answer, the Iron Requiem fired. There was no bright beam of energy. No colorful display. Just a streak of motion too fast for the eye to follow properly. Solid metal projectiles, each one weighing several tons, accelerated to 15% of light speed. The first Korthan cruiser exploded, not from the outside in like a ship hit by energy weapons, from the inside out. The railgun projectile punched through the bow, traveled through the entire length of the ship, and exited through the stern. Everything inside the ship was destroyed instantly. The hull tore apart from the internal pressure. Then the second ship died. Then the third. Then the fourth. The railguns fired continuously. The sound of their operation traveled through space as vibrations. Coalition ships equipped to detect such things heard it. A deep rhythmic pounding, like a heartbeat, or a drum of war. 12 Korthan ships died in the first 5 seconds. Shields, Admiral Kivos screamed. Raise shields! All ships, maximum power to shields. The coalition vessels activated their defensive systems. Shimmering fields of energy surrounded each ship. These shields had protected them in dozens of battles. They could stop any weapon the galaxy knew about. The railgun projectiles went through the shields like they were not there. The shields were designed to disperse energy, to spread it out and reduce its impact. But these were not energy weapons. These were solid objects moving at impossible speeds. The shields touched them and failed instantly. More ships died. 20, 30, 40. Return fire, Kivos ordered. Keep firing! The coalition ships obeyed. Energy weapons lashed out again and again, but the Iron Requiem simply absorbed everything. Nothing touched it. Nothing harmed it, sir, the sensor officer called out. The human ship is launching missiles! On the display, Hyun watched as launch tubes opened along the Iron Requiem's hull. Small objects shot out, but these missiles did not fly straight at their targets. They scattered in all directions, moving in strange patterns. Evade! Kivos shouted. Coalition ships tried to dodge. They were good ships, crewed by skilled pilots. They moved with grace and speed, but the missiles moved better. They curved through space like living things. They followed their targets, adjusting course constantly. The first missile reached a coalition destroyer. The ship's shields were still up at full power. The missile hit the shield and should have exploded. Instead, it passed through. Just like the railgun projectiles, but for a different reason. The missile's computer brain analyzed the shield frequency in microseconds. Then it adjusted its own frequency to match. The shield thought the missile was friendly. It let the missile through. The missile hit the ship's hull and exploded. Not a big explosion. Just enough to breach the hull. Air and crew were sucked out into space. But the missile had not finished its job. Before it exploded, it released a dozen smaller missiles. These spread out and flew toward other ships. When they hit shields, they learned. They adapted. They passed through and struck their targets. Each of those smaller missiles released more missiles. Soon hundreds of smart weapons filled the space around the coalition fleet. They were learning from each other, sharing data. No shield frequency stopped them anymore. They are in our formation, a junior officer shouted. The missiles are inside our defensive line. Ships began exploding everywhere. The careful formation that had taken hours to arrange fell apart. Captains panicked and broke formation, trying to escape. But the missiles followed, relentless, unstoppable. All ships focus fire on the missiles, Kivos ordered. Shoot them down. But there were too many. For every missile destroyed, 3 more appeared. The coalition fleet's weapons were designed to fight large targets, Big ships, slow targets. These missiles were small and fast. They dodged. They weaved. They learned. Hyun watched it all happen. He felt sick. This was not a battle. This was a demonstration. The Iron Requiem was showing the Coalition what human weapons could do. And it had not even tried hard yet. "Sir," a new voice said over the Coalition's communication system, "this is Captain Mira of the Velthari battleship Endless Sky. We are taking heavy damage. Permission to retreat?" Kivos looked at his displays. 60 ships were gone now. Maybe 70. The numbers climbed too fast to count. Retreat where? "Those missiles are faster than us." "Then what do we do?" Captain Mira asked. Fear filled her voice. Before Kivos could answer, something new appeared on the sensors. A wave of energy spreading out from the Iron Requiem. It expanded in all directions like a bubble. When it reached the Coalition ships, their weapons stopped working. Not permanently. Just temporarily. Energy weapons would charge up and then discharge harmlessly. Targeting systems could not lock on to anything. Even the basic power systems flickered and failed. "What is happening?" Kivos demanded. "Some kind of field," the sensor officer said. "It is disrupting all our systems." "That is the shroud," Hyun said quietly. "It is a defensive field. Your energy weapons cannot function inside it. How long does it last?" "As long as the Iron Requiem wants it to last." Kivos stared at the human ship. It sat at the center of the field of destruction it had created. Coalition ships burned around it. Escape pods launched from dying vessels. Crew members who had been proud and confident an hour ago were now fleeing for their lives. "This is not war," Kivos said softly. "This is extermination." Captain Nari's voice came through again. "You are correct, Admiral. This is not war. This is what happens when you force our hand. Real war looks much worse than this. What do you want from us?" Kivos asked. "I want you to understand your place," Nari replied. "You are not the strongest military force in this region. You are not even close. We are, and we have been for a very long time. Then why did you hide it? Because we hoped we would not need to show you. We hoped you would be smart enough to avoid conflict. We hoped you would join us as friends instead of learning this lesson as enemies." On the displays, the missiles suddenly stopped attacking. They hung in space around the Coalition fleet, motionless. Waiting. "You have a choice now," Nari continued. "Stand down. Stop fighting. Wait here while we handle the Ravagers. Or continue this engagement. And we will show you what our primary weapons look like. So far you have only seen our point defense systems." The bridge was completely silent. Every being there stared at the displays. "These were just your defensive weapons?" Admiral Kivos asked weakly. "Yes," Captain Nari confirmed. "The railguns and missiles are what we use to shoot down incoming threats. Would you like to see what we actually use for attacking?" "No," Kivos said quickly. "No, we would not." The human ship did not arrive like normal vessels. It did not drop out of faster-than-light travel in the usual way. Instead, space itself seemed to tear apart. A line of brilliant white light cut across the darkness. Behind it came a wound in reality that bled strange colors no eye was meant to see. Every sensor on every Coalition ship screamed warnings. Radiation alarms went off across 400 vessels. Officers shouted reports. Confusion spread through the fleet like fire. Then the ship came through. It was massive. 3 kilometers from front to back. Its hull was dark gray, almost black. No lights shone from it. No signals came from it. It simply hung in space like a predator waiting in the shadows. "What in the 7 hells is that?" Admiral Kivos whispered. The sensor officer stared at her displays. Her hands shook. "Admiral, I cannot get a proper scan. Our sensors are not working correctly. Every time I try to read the ship, the data just slides away." "That is impossible," the Korthan commander said. "Nothing can block modern sensors." "I am telling you what I see, sir. Or what I do not see. The ship is there. We can see it with our eyes. But the sensors cannot tell us anything about it." Hyun watched the ship on the main display. He had seen images before, but seeing it in person was different. The Iron Requiem looked like death itself had taken physical form. The Coalition commanders had no idea what they were looking at. "How big is it?" Kivos asked. "Approximately 3.2 kilometers in length. Mass readings are..." The officer paused. "This cannot be right. Tell me." "If the sensors are correct, that ship has a mass greater than some moons. But it is moving like a fighter craft. The amount of energy needed to move that much mass would require a power source that we do not understand." A junior officer ran up to Admiral Kivos. "Sir, We are receiving a transmission. Audio only. It is from the human ship. Play it, Kivos ordered. A woman's voice came through the speakers. It was calm and cold. This is Earth Defense Force warship Iron Requiem. You are in a combat zone. Clear the area immediately. This is your only warning. Kivos's mouth parts clicked rapidly. This is Admiral Kivos of the Coalition Armada. We are here to engage the Ravager forces. We do not need your assistance. Please move to a safe distance and allow us to proceed. There was no response. Did they receive our message? Kivos asked. Yes, sir. But they are not answering. The Korthan commander stood up. His thick arms crossed over his chest. This is insulting. One ship tells 400 to move? Who do these humans think they are? Hyun wanted to warn them again, but he knew they would not listen. Sometimes people needed to learn through experience. He only hoped the lesson would not be too painful. Admiral, the Korthan commander continued, allow me to fire a warning shot. Just a small one. To show them we are serious. To establish our authority in this combat zone. Kivos thought for a moment. Then he nodded. Very well. One warning shot. Make sure it passes well clear of their hull. We do not want to start an incident. The Korthan commander smiled. He gave orders to his ship. Across the fleet, the coalition vessels watched. On the main display, Hyun saw a bright blue beam of energy lance out from a Korthan cruiser. It was a plasma weapon, not powerful enough to destroy a ship, but enough to overload shields and show capability. The beam crossed the distance between the coalition fleet and the human ship in less than a second. It struck the Iron Requiem on the forward hull and nothing happened. The beam simply disappeared. No explosion, no shield flare, no damage. The energy just ceased to exist when it touched the human vessel's hull. What? The Korthan commander stared at his displays. Where did my shot go? The sensor officer checked her readings. Sir, the energy was absorbed. Completely absorbed. I am not reading any heat increase on their hull. I am not reading any shield activation. The beam just vanished. That is impossible, Kivos said. Nothing can absorb that much energy without some kind of reaction. On the display, the Iron Requiem began to change. Lights flickered on along its hull. Not running lights or navigation lights. These were different. They looked like eyes opening in the darkness. Weapon ports. Dozens of them. Hundreds of them. Then a new voice came through the speakers. A man this time. His voice was emotionless. This is Captain Nari of the Iron Requiem. You have fired on an Earth Defense Force vessel. We interpret this as an act of war. No, Kivos said quickly. That was a warning shot only. We meant no harm. We did not know your shields could absorb it so completely. We do not have shields, Captain Nari said. Silence fell on the bridge. Hyun closed his eyes. Here it came. What do you mean you do not have shields? Kivos asked. We do not use shields. We do not need them. The Korthan commander laughed nervously. Then you are fools. How do you protect yourself? By killing our enemies before they can harm us, Captain Nari replied. Another voice came through the human ship's transmission. A man speaking to Captain Nari. All weapon systems are online. We have target locks on all hostile vessels. Hostile? Kivos said. We are not hostile. This is a misunderstanding. You fired on us, Captain Nari said. That makes you hostile. However, we will give you one chance. Power down your weapons. Drop out of formation. Wait here while we deal with the Ravagers. If you do this, we will not destroy you. The Korthan commander's face turned dark red. You threaten us, you? One ship against 400? I do not threaten, Captain Nari said. I inform. Then let me inform you. The Korthan commander was shouting now. We are the greatest military force in this region of space. We have fought and won dozens of wars. We will not be ordered around by primitive humans who barely know how to fly between stars. Hyun opened his eyes. He looked at Admiral Kivos. Sir, please. Order your fleet to stand down. You do not understand what you are dealing with. Commander Hyun, return to your quarters, Kivos said sharply. This has gone far enough. Your people are acting irrationally. One ship, no matter how large, cannot threaten an entire fleet. Admiral, that is an order. Hyun stood at attention. He saluted. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. But he did not leave the bridge. He stopped at the doorway and turned back. Admiral, before I go, may I ask one question? Kivos waved a hand impatiently. What? Why do you think Earth has been so peaceful for the past 50 years? Why do you think we have not built a large fleet? Why do you think we have been so quiet while we learned about the galaxy? Because you are weak, the Korthan commander said. Because you are new. Because you have nothing to offer. Hyun shook his head slowly. No, it is because we have been watching you. Learning about you. Deciding if you were a threat. A threat to you? The Korthan commander laughed. Yes, and we have decided you are not. Hyun looked at each commander in turn. Do you know what that means? When humans decide you are not a threat, no one answered. It means we are the threat, Hyun said quietly. It means everything we built to fight something much worse than you. It means you never had a chance. Captain Nari's voice came through again. Your time is up. What is your decision? The Korthan commander looked at Admiral Kivos. Give me permission to fire. All weapons. Let us show these humans the true meaning of military power. Admiral Kivos hesitated. He looked at the human ship on the display. He looked at Hyun standing by the door. Then he made his choice. All ships, Kivos said slowly. Prepare to fire on my mark. Hyun closed his eyes again. Fire. Kivos shouted. 400 ships opened fire at once. The stars looked peaceful today. Commander Hyun stood on the bridge of the massive ship called Eternal Dawn and watched the fleet gather. Ships from 12 different alien species filled the dark space around him. Their running lights blinked like fireflies in the endless black. Each ship represented a different civilization, a different world. Together, they formed the largest military force the galaxy had seen in 200 years. Hyun was human. He was the only human on this ship. The coalition had invited Earth to send a representative when they learned about the trouble brewing at the frontier. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, Hyun had watched and waited while the alien commanders made their plans. Admiral Kivos stood at the center of the bridge. He was Veltari, tall and blue-skinned with 4 eyes that could see in different directions at once. He looked at the holographic display showing all the ships in the fleet. His mouth parts clicked together and what Hyun had learned was satisfaction. A magnificent sight, Kivos said to the other commanders around him. 400 warships. The Ravagers will flee when they see us coming. The other aliens made sounds of agreement. Some nodded. Others made gestures Hyun did not fully understand. But he could feel their confidence. They believed they would win easily. Hyun said nothing. He had learned it was better to stay quiet when the coalition commanders talked about military matters. They did not respect human opinions. To them, humanity was new. Babies in the galactic community, Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. These civilizations had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. A young officer approached Admiral Kivos. She was from a species called the Tarn. Her scales reflected the blue light of the displays. Admiral, we are receiving distress calls from the frontier colonies. The Ravagers have destroyed 3 settlements in the past day. Kivos waved one of his long arms. We will arrive in time. The Ravagers are predictable. They attack weak targets. When they see our fleet, they will run like the cowards they are. Hyun cleared his throat. Admiral, if I may speak? All 4 of Kivos's eyes turned to look at him. The other commanders stopped talking. The bridge became quiet. Hyun felt the weight of their attention. Some looked amused. Others looked annoyed. Yes, Commander Hyun, Kivos said. His voice sounded patient, like a teacher talking to a small child. Earth Command has received the same distress signals. They are sending ships to help. I would recommend we wait for them to arrive before we engage the enemy. For a moment, there was silence. Then one of the commanders began to laugh. It was a deep rumbling sound. Soon others joined in. Even some of the junior officers smiled. Kivos held up a hand and the laughter stopped. Commander Hyun, we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm. But this is a military operation. We have 400 warships. Your people have what, 15? 20 ships total? I am not authorized to discuss the size of Earth's fleet, Hyun said carefully. This brought more laughter. A commander from the Korthan species leaned forward. His species looked like thick-skinned bears that walked on 2 legs. You do not need to hide your shame, human. We know your military is small. You have only been in space for 50 years. We have been watching you. Your ships are crude. Your weapons are primitive. You still use chemical propulsion for some of your vessels. That is true, Hyun admitted. But no buts, Kivos interrupted, though not unkindly. Your people are brave. We respect that. But this is beyond your capabilities. When we finish here, perhaps you can help with the cleanup. Search for survivors. Rebuild the colonies. That would be a valuable contribution, Hyun wanted to argue. He wanted to tell them they were making a mistake. But he had his orders from Earth Command. Observe only. Do not reveal capabilities. Let them learn the hard way if necessary. So Hyun nodded and stepped back. He returned to his station and watched the displays. The coalition fleet began to move, heading toward the frontier zone where the Ravagers waited. Hours passed. The fleet traveled through normal space, following the careful formations they had practiced. The commanders talked strategy. They discussed shield frequencies and firing patterns. They debated which ships would take the lead in the attack. Then a sensor officer called out, "Admiral, we are detecting a ship approaching at high speed. Very high speed." Kivos looked at his display. "Identify it." The sensor officer worked at her console. Her face showed confusion. "Sir, the speed is impossible. No ship should be moving that fast. It must be a sensor error." "Run a diagnostic," Kivos ordered. "Already running, sir. The sensors are working correctly. The ship is real. And it is moving at 0.8 light speed." In normal space, the bridge became very quiet. Ships did not move at 0.8 light speed in normal space. The energy required would be enormous. The stress on the hull would tear most ships apart. "Distance?" Kavos asked. "It will reach us in 4 minutes." "Hail them," the communications officer tried. "No response, Admiral. They are not answering any channels." Hyun felt his heart beat faster. He knew what was coming. He had seen the reports. He had watched the test footage, but he said nothing. "Can you identify the ship?" Kivos demanded. The sensor officer shook her head. "Negative, sir. The sensor returns are strange. The mass readings are enormous, but the ship appears to be alone. Just one vessel. A single ship moving that fast?" The Korthan commander sounded worried now. "What civilization builds such a ship?" Hyun took a deep breath. Then he spoke quietly. "That would be us." Every being on the bridge turned to look at him. Kivos's 4 eyes were all focused on Hyun's face. "What did you say?" the Admiral asked. "The ship is from Earth," Hyun said. "You should really wait for it to arrive before you engage the Ravagers." "One ship?" Kivos said. "Even moving that fast, one ship cannot make a difference against the Ravager horde." Hyun met the Admiral's eyes. His voice was calm and steady when he spoke. "You have never seen us fight, Admiral. You should have waited." The sensor officer's voice cut through the tension. "Sir, the human ship is not slowing down. It is heading straight for our fleet. Tell them to reduce speed," Kivos shouted. "They are not responding to any hails, sir." On the main display, a dot appeared. It grew larger with impossible speed. Within seconds, Hyun could see the shape of the ship. It was huge, far larger than any ship in the coalition fleet, and it was coming in fast, very fast.